I want you to think about the last time someone you know got promoted. Maybe it was a colleague. Maybe it was you. And I want you to be honest about what happened next. Because in most cases, and the data on this is genuinely uncomfortable, the promotion didn't make things better, it made things worse. Not for the company, not for the team, for the person who got promoted. And here is the part nobody says out loud. That person probably should have said no. I know how that sounds. We are wired from childhood to believe that climbing is winning. More rungs, more status, more money, more proof that you matter. The entire architecture of a career is built on the assumption that up is the only direction worth moving. So when I tell you that for a significant portion of working professionals, accepting a promotion is one of the most financially and personally damaging decisions they will ever make, I understand if your first reaction is skepticism. Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to see something in your own career that you cannot unsee. And it starts with a man named Lawrence Peter, a book written in 1969, and a mathematical trap that is quietly working against you right now. In 1969, Lawrence J. Peter published what was initially intended as a satirical look at corporate bureaucracy. The central idea was simple enough that it almost sounds like a joke. In any hierarchy, every employee tends to rise to their level of incompetence. Read that again slowly, because the implications are enormous. You get promoted because you are good. You get promoted again because you figured out the new role. And this continues until you land somewhere you cannot handle, and then it stops. Not because you get fired, because you stay, permanently installed in the one role that defeats you. The system, almost by design, takes the things you are brilliant at and moves you away from them forever. This is not a metaphor. It is a structural feature of how organizations actually function, and we have the research to prove it. A few years ago, economists published a landmark paper in the Quarterly Journal of Economics examining this exact phenomenon across more than 200 firms and over 53,000 workers. They focused on sales teams because sales is one of the few environments where performance is completely transparent. You either hit your number or you didn't. There is no ambiguity. What the researchers found was this. The single strongest predictor of who got promoted to sales manager was individual sales volume. The top sellers became the bosses. That feels fair and logical. Reward the best performers, right? But then the researchers looked at what happened to the teams these newly promoted managers were leading. And this is where the data stops being abstract and starts being devastating. The better a salesperson had been individually, the worse their team performed under their management. Not slightly worse. Measurably, consistently worse. There was a negative correlation between individual sales excellence and management effectiveness. The superstars, when placed in charge of others, actively dragged down the performance of their entire team. The reason is not complicated once you see it. Elite individual selling requires aggression, self-focus, competitive drive, and the willingness to outperform everyone around you. Elite management requires the exact opposite: patience, empathy, the ability to subordinate your ego for the benefit of others, and a genuine interest in developing people who may one day surpass you. These are not the same skill set. They are almost opposing ones, and yet we keep confusing them because we assume talent is vertical. That if someone is exceptional at level 1, they will be exceptional at level 2. The research says that assumption is wrong. There is a second mechanism making this worse, and it comes from statistics rather than psychology. It is called regression to the mean. To earn a promotion, you typically need a standout year, a period where everything came together and your results were exceptional. But exceptional results are almost always a combination of genuine skill and a favorable run of circumstances. A hot market, a key client who happened to come in at the right moment, a competitor who stumbled. When you get promoted off the back of that peak performance, statistics predicts that your next period will naturally drift back toward your average. The lucky streak ends. The circumstances normalize. But now you're in a harder role, doing a different kind of work, and the drift looks to your organization like sudden incompetence. In reality, the promotion system selected you at your statistical ceiling and placed you in a position designed to expose the correction. Now I want you to picture something specific, because this is the frame that changes how you think about every career decision you will ever make again. Most people picture a career as a ladder, a vertical structure where the only rational move is upward. I want you to replace that image entirely. Instead, picture a graph. The horizontal axis is job level, junior, senior, manager, director, executive. The vertical axis is your actual competence. Not your title, not your salary, your real effectiveness, how well you actually perform the work in front of you. For most people, that line does not go up forever. It rises through the early levels as you learn and grow. It peaks somewhere in the middle, a specific zone where the demands of the role align almost perfectly with the way your brain is wired, the skills you have built, and the energy you genuinely bring to the work. And then it starts to fall, because the higher levels require fundamentally different capabilities, often less about execution and more about politics, administration, and managing the ambiguity of decisions that have no clean answer. Here is what makes this dangerous. The corporate ladder only moves in one direction. It forces you to cross that graph from left to right regardless of where your personal competence curve peaks. And we have built a culture that celebrates every step to the right, even the steps that carry you past your peak and into territory where you are quietly failing. We throw parties for it. We post about it. We are, without realizing it, celebrating the moment we began doing the worst work of our careers. The rational alternative, the one that almost nobody discusses openly, is to identify where your curve peaks and stay there deliberately. Not because you have given up, because you understand value, your value, and the organization's. Let me show you what this looks like in practice, because the fear most people have is that declining a promotion signals weakness or lack of ambition. It doesn't, but it requires a specific kind of framing. The conversation is not, "I don't want more responsibility." That is how it sounds to the wrong ears. The conversation is this: "I have looked carefully at where I generate the highest return for this organization, and it is in doing the core work at the highest possible level, not in moving away from it. I want to grow in depth, not just in hierarchy. Can we build a path where I take on more complex work, mentor less experienced team members, and be compensated for that expanded contribution, without shifting my fundamental function?" You are not refusing growth. You are defining it differently. You are protecting the organization from putting a brilliant specialist into a mediocre management role. And you are protecting yourself from spending the next decade doing work you are not suited for, in a state of low-level stress that compounds invisibly until it becomes something much harder to recover from. The people who last the longest in organizations, the ones who survive restructuring, economic downturns, and leadership changes, are rarely the climbers who stretched past their competence. They are the people who became so deeply excellent at the core work that removing them created an immediate visible problem. During layoffs, it is almost always the middle layer that gets cut first. The person who actually builds the product, closes the deal, or solves the technical problem tends to stay. Their value is not ambiguous. It does not require a title to explain. The Peter Principle is not a metaphor. It is not corporate folklore. It is a mathematically predictable outcome of how talent gets misread, how luck gets mistaken for skill, and how we have built systems that systematically move people away from their genuine strengths. Knowing it exists is the first advantage. Knowing where your own curve peaks is the second. And having the discipline to stay there, or to frame the conversation in a way that lets you grow without self-destructing, that is the actual career strategy that most people never figure out until it is too late. If this reframed the way you think about where you are right now, share this with someone in your network who is weighing a promotion decision, because this conversation almost never happens honestly, and they may need to hear it. Leave a comment below and tell me where in the world you're watching from, and whether you have ever witnessed someone get promoted straight into a role that destroyed them. I read every comment. And those real-world examples from people across different industries and countries are exactly what makes this community genuinely worth building. See you in the next one.